Good evening. A very warm welcome to this edition of Business at 9 with all the buzzing business news of the day. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Mumbai. I'm Vikram. Let's first turn to CRISIL's monthly indicator of food plate costs. In August, the prices of both vegetarian and non-vegetarian thalis has gone down. If you consider it on a monthly basis, it's gone down, and so also on a yearly basis. While the cost of a vegetarian thali has gone down by 8% on a year-on-year basis, the non-vegetarian one has reduced by 12%. What are the reasons? Decline in fuel, vegetable oil, tomato, broiler, all of the prices of these have helped the decrease in thali costs according to CRISIL's report. But what does this reduction mean really when you consider vegetarian or non-vegetarian thalis, this reduction in prices? How does it paint the picture for food inflation right now? Is this trend where we're trending down? Is it going to continue or not? Let's find out. Pushan Sharma is the Director of Research at CRISIL Market Intelligence and Analytics. And he joins us along with Agri businesses expert Vijay Sardana. Gentlemen, always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for making the time. Pushan Sharma, from your data, can we glean that we've controlled food inflation substantially?
Vikram, what we see right now is on the high of August 2023, when tomato prices had breached 100 rupee mark.
Yes.
That's come down to about 50 rupees. So optically, one sees a reduction in the prices. On a month-on-month, though, you would still see that there is still pressure that is persisting. If we look at the Thali index that we have over the last 12 months and look at the lowest point of the Thali for both veg and non-veg, we're about 14% above that. And right now we have the festive season ahead of us where the demand is going to spike. So a lot remains to be monitored as we go along in September with the harvest season coming along.
Perhaps you've had a chance to look at the data that CRISIL has put out in its report. What does that tell you? Because food inflation has been a nemesis, really, for the RBI. There have been sticky prices, and then we've had sudden shocks, which have all made the disinflation process for the RBI rather slow. Now, when you look at this data for the month of August, how do you read into it?
First of all, good evening to you and to the viewers. See, what is important here to look at it, the cyclical phenomena of price movement in this country.
Yes.
That has not come under control. That is one important issue too. It means majority of price fluctuation is seasonal. It means whatever we are planning, whether to create a warehousing infrastructure or stability or productivity, is not reflecting in the price control. In one way, one has to look at it. Second important issue which we have to be very, very careful. Take example where we mentioned about non-vegetarian thali that there is a drop in broiler prices. It may look very exciting to consumers, but the tragedy is that today cost of production is much higher than what is the market price of broiler today. It means the overall chicken industry is suffering losses. Now, if that happens, it has a cascading effect because maize industry is based on chicken, then other byproduct industry, there's a whole lot of other agriculture waste activity which goes into livestock products. So what we have to look at is that it is very, very peculiar scenario in India because we are an agro economy and 60% people depend upon agriculture as a source of income. If farmer prices goes down for whatever reasons, it hurts the income of 60% of people. Incidentally, they are also consumers. So they have less disposable income. It will hurt your basic other food items because no farmer is producing everything. They are producing one or two crops. Rest of the crops they have to buy. And when they have a less disposable income, it will also hurt your white good industry or motorcycle or bicycle and textile or clothing or apparel, whole lot of other sectors. So it is very important that this chart reflects repeatedly, and policymakers have to be very careful that why still so much fluctuation is happening and why we are not able to stabilize the cyclical phenomena after spending so much money in infrastructure and other research activities.
What do you make of the cyclicality of some of these prices that you would research on a monthly basis? in terms of the seasonal spikes is one thing. Now that we have a better monsoon, perhaps we are going to see this. But to be able to forecast correctly and to be able to tell which way the trend is moving when it comes to food inflation, what are you factoring in and what is being left out of the research process?
So if we look at the seasonality, there's clear seasonality amongst key crops, specifically tomato and onion. Each year we see that the prices spike for tomato in the month of June, July, and August. In case of onion, the spike happens around September. And there are structural reasons for that. For onion, it's a majority Rabi crop. 60 to 65% of onion is produced during the Rabi season. It is then stored between March to September. And then when the Kharif onion comes into the market, that's when the Rabi is almost depleting. And if there is a gap between when the Rabi depletes and the Kharif arrives, that's where we see a spike. Similar story with tomato. Now, the way to address is to take structural measures. There needs to be more processing infrastructure. If we talk about tomato, we still depend on Western markets for sauces and spreads. The processing in India is less than 5% for tomato. If you look at the crop was selling for less than 10 rupees per kg in January, right? And the prices started rising and soaring in June, July. Now, had that tomato in January been procured and processed, both the consumers would not feel the pinch in June, July, and the farmers would have fetched better prices in January. So the need of the hour is to enhance the processing infrastructure in India and let the farmers move up the value chain and get the benefit of the prices.
Agree with that kind of concept to be able to kind of control these seasonal spikes that we see in prices, Mr. Sardana?
I don't think so. I think we should understand that consumer behavior of India. How many of consumes tomato puree in kitchen? Ask any housewife or any person, even look into your own kitchen. So it's very easy to say that we go for food processing. See, in a country where people are talking about that raw material prices are very high and we are also always in shortage, then we are talking about creating processing industry competing with the table prices. I think it will never work. Food processing industry always survives. Either you have a surplus production and prices are crashing below the table variety, and table consumption prices should also be affordable. Only then you can think of value addition. Otherwise, wherever you try, the prices will never work. That is one important aspect to think about. Second important issue, example of tomato, it will not work for a simple reason, because the total solids in tomato is very less in India. Our varieties are not suitable for processing. Imagine if you have a 4-5% of total solids in tomato vis-a-vis 9 or 10 in international market. It is cheaper to buy tomato puree or tomato paste from international market and make sauce than buying from Indian farmer and converting into a sauce, because cost of production will be double. And it makes no sense whatever it is. Then you have a huge taxation, and at the same time, one department of Government of India says promote processing, the health department says do not consume processed food. So there is a serious confusion in communication at various levels.
Right.
So I think we have to be logical, pragmatic. We should not copy the West, because West model is not going to work here. Our food habits are very different. Consumer behavior is very different. Our recipes are very different. We don't eat burger or we don't eat pizza every day. We need chapati, we need dal, we need curry sabji. In that, customers love to have fresh tomatoes instead of tomato paste. So there are a lot of recipe issues also. So that is the way to look at it. Only that is one of the reasons why we are not increasing processing, because it does not make sense to consumer. It is too expensive.
Mr. Sharma, also when you study the cost of the Indian thali, do you also factor in how affordability has changed of the Indian thali over the period that you've been monitoring it?
Right. Just on the point of processing that Mr. Sardana spoke about, I think supply tends to create its own demand, and it's the entire ecosystem that needs to work together. You would need better quality seeds, you need better harvesting technique, and the consumer, when he's left or she's left with no choice to not consume that commodity, go for an alternative or not just have tomato. When you have supply which is affordable and available in the market, the consumer tends to adopt. If the supply is just not available, it'll always be a chicken and egg story. When it's just not available, people are not going to change their habits. Coming to the affordability of the thali, what we have seen is that the last 3 years during COVID have seen a significant spike in prices across commodities. And what we see is that the rural segments of India have borne the brunt of this much more, because food is a much more significant portion of their monthly consumption as compared to some of the other segments of the society. So definitely these escalation in prices of the last 3 years have caused a pinch on the monthly expenditure of any household in India.
Also, Mr. Sharma, I would like you to highlight in terms of the use of technology in agriculture, because the government has announced a huge outlay for the farm sector. From what was to what could be, how much of a change can we actually expect? It was something that I was discussing with Mr. Sardana a couple of days ago. I would like you to also answer that question for us.
Now, the use of technology can be done across the value chain. Some of the technologies that are coming into India from the Western market might not be a suitable fit for India. For example, technologies that are considering, like, say, drone, that is not a B2C application. That will always be a B2B application, because the land sizes in US are, average land holding is more than 100 hectares. In India, it's only 1.08 hectares. But if they are given and deployed through the B2B route, where we are seeing some success, there it could benefit the producers. Certain other technologies, for example, satellite imagery, what we're seeing is that they are benefiting in better credit risk assessment for farmers. Today, only about 60% of our farmers are able to get access to finance from formal route, which is the banking channels. A large majority of them rely on money lenders, where the lending rates are, multiples of what a formal channel would offer. Now, satellite imagery is helping banks take a better assessment of land parcels at the farm level, look at the trend in sowing production yield for those crops. And banks which were averse in lending to farmers because of lack of information availability, they are being able to take better calls. And we're seeing that increase formal credit penetration for farmers. So technology is definitely playing a role. Some may be pertinent and applicable to India, some may not.
Well, there are several moving pieces when it comes to our agri sector, and we've been discussing it at length. But at this point in time, just considering the kind of data that CRISIL has put out about how the Indian thali has gotten that much cheaper, whether it's the vegetarian one or the non-vegetarian one, it does beg the question about sustainability of this kind of trend, whether or not we are going to see food inflation come under the kind of range that the RBI is working towards or not, because that has been a sticky issue. We'll keep tracking that. Pushan Sharma and Vijay Sardana, always a pleasure having you on the show with your perspectives. Thank you very much for joining us this evening as well.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.